Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch. I'm the voice of the Bulldogs, Rob Bentley, along with Sandy Golston, as we get set for the regular season finale this Saturday. Ferris State taking on the Davenport Panthers in Caledonia. And Sandy, hard to believe we're to the final week here of regular season play.
Well, certainly when we were at practice today, there was a definite contrast between what the weather is like today here and well into November versus what it was like when we were hitting the turf during preseason practices. So a lot colder, a few more layers on, but that's a good thing. That means that you're playing still, your season's still going, and so that means you're coming toward the end of the regular season for the Bulldogs. They've already clinched the GLIAC championship, and now they want to continue to have that momentum as they head into the playoffs. But to do that, they're going to have to get past a really good Davenport team.
Of course, the Bulldogs coming off what was a memorable win, 51-45 in double overtime over Saginaw Valley State this past Saturday in University Center. And what a game. The Bulldogs overcome 6 turnovers and find a way to get the win on the road.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have used the term instant classic, and I don't think it was very pretty in terms of instant classic, but in terms of drama, it absolutely was a double overtime win, and a great run there by Tariq Brett at the end to break a tackle, get off that left side of the Bulldog offensive line and get into the end zone to end it in double overtime. But just a gritty win for the Bulldogs. It was a game where certainly we were turnover plagued, but we found a way to overcome, and some people that stepped up and made some big plays down the stretch to help us get that win.
Of course, the Bulldogs accomplished one of their first goals here of the year to win the GLIAC championship. Able to do that with still a game left in the regular season. Now a 2-game lead going into this final week of regular season play.
Yeah, I mean, it was in jeopardy really up until Tariq was able to get that touchdown, because if you don't get that, you don't win that game, then a lot of things are up in the air. But you do get that touchdown run, and you do get the win, and you're able to claim that championship, as you mentioned, with still 1 week to go. But you still want to keep momentum going. But it certainly feels good to accomplish that first goal, which is a GLIAC championship. Because if you can win a GLIAC championship, that's going to put you in a position to potentially be successful in the playoffs. And so GLIAC championship first, and then you'll reevaluate your other goals and move forward.
Of course, we'll talk more about that game here over the course of the next hour. Got to love, though, the way that Chase Carter came on in that second half and really kind of engineered that Bulldog victory. I looked down there at the sideline, especially after that second touchdown that they were able to get after trailing 24-7, and then followed by the pick six. And wow, I've never seen so much energy and excitement on that Ferris State sideline.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of right on the edge, until, things started to happen, that big touchdown pass. And then, of course, the pick six that you mentioned from Justin Payout to take that back to the house. And then that energy level, you mentioned it, that energy level just really increased and increased and increased. And I give Chase Carter a lot of credit. Rob, he's grown tremendously in this Bulldog football program. I think, we talked about Wyatt taking a big step in the spring and then in the fall, but so did Chase Carter. Chase Carter's taking a big step, and the Bulldogs really feel good about their quarterback room right now. And Chase Carter's performance coming in against Saginaw Valley is part of the reason why the Bulldogs feel so good about their quarterback room.
Of course, the Bulldogs have to feel pretty good as well about the regional picture. Super Region 3 right now, number 1. Of course, Ferris State with the win, winning the GLIAC championship. They've already secured an 11th consecutive trip to the NCAA Division II playoffs, which leads the country, but trying to hold on to that number 1 spot. And right now, leading Findlay for that number 1 spot here in Super Region 3.
Yeah, it's tight. And, of course, Findlay undefeated in the GMAC and coming into the last game of the regular season. They have a good test, and we'll talk about that in their finale, regular season finale, to try to hang on to their undefeated status as well. And so right now the Bulldogs are sitting in a good position right now atop the Super Region 3 rankings. But again, they got to continue to take care of business here in the final week of the regular season.
Of course, the final week of the regular season at Davenport, and Davenport led by a former Bulldog player, was an assistant coach under Tony Anise and Sparky McEwen. His son A.J. McEwen, a former Bulldog, is the defensive coordinator, and a program that knows Ferris State as well as anyone.
They do, and even if it wasn't Ferris State, if it was somebody else, they're a very well-prepared staff, a very, very intelligent staff and hardworking, and it just so happens that they do know Ferris State very well because of the Ferris State connections that they've had, in particular since Sparky's gotten there and AJ have gotten there. But so they're going to be ready. Not going to be a whole lot of secrets, and Sparky's going to have his team overall prepared. AJ's going to really have that defense ready.
Of course, Ferris State and Davenport meeting here for the Calder City Classic Trophy, second straight year that this trophy will be awarded to the winner of the game. Obviously, last year Ferris State won it for the first time in Big Rapids, but it was a hard-fought game, a game that kind of like the Saginaw Valley State game really went to the fourth quarter of action.
Yeah, and that's what we typically expect from a Davenport team. Davenport is always, very, very good defensively and very solid on both lines of scrimmage. And, they're going to make you work for it. And so you don't expect anything easy when you come into a Ferris State game against Davenport. You know that they're going to come ready to play. And so that one did have a little bit of drama going, certainly at least into the fourth quarter. And so, and that's what you would expect, from a team that's coached by Sparky McEwen, that they're going to come in and they're going to compete.
Of course, Davenport, as we look at their schedule and results from this year, maybe a little bit of a slow start, but they've really came on, put up 75 points a couple weeks ago, got the big win over Saginaw Valley, and I know last Saturday maybe a game they'd like to have back against Northern Michigan, but they've been playing some good football here throughout the month of October and here now into November.
Yeah, they have. I mean, really, honestly, all season they've played some really good football and they've played some tough competition and they've been pushed and they've pushed back and certainly some really good wins. And obviously the Northern Michigan game is one that I'm sure stings for them quite a bit. But at the same time, you know how dangerous this team is because they beat Saginaw Valley and we just went to double overtime to beat Saginaw Valley. So you know that they're a team that's battle tested. They're a team that's tough, and they can win if they're on their game. And you have to be ready to play.
Of course, we thought our game was long, going to double overtime in University Center. Davenport, Northern Michigan, I think went 4 overtimes this past weekend. So that had to be a memorable game as well. I'm sure a little more so for Northern Michigan getting the win over the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean that's 2 overtimes for us and. Our colleague and friend Rick Berkey, who calls the Davenport games, he put in a couple extra overtimes even above and beyond that. But, again, good win for Northern Michigan, tough loss for Davenport. But, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of overtiming taking place last week. And so we'll see. Hopefully we don't have that many overtimes this week. And hopefully we can come away with a Bulldog victory. But, yeah, I mean, 2 battle-tested teams coming into the regular season finale.
Of course, we'll talk more about the playoff picture as well here over the course of the next hour. The Bulldogs, as we mentioned, number 1 in Super Region 3. The official NCAA Division II selection announcement will take place on Sunday following the regular season, 6 p.m. Eastern Time at NCAA.com with the NCAA Division II selection show. 11 straight years. We already know Ferris State's in the playoff field, 11 consecutive years. And I remember at one point the Bulldogs hadn't been there in more than that. So certainly it's been a great run here under head coach Tony Anise, and one the Bulldogs are happy to continue.
Yeah, it's been an amazing run for the Bulldogs. And you mentioned it was for a long time. It's like you hadn't even really sniffed the playoffs. And to be able to get in there and to have this stretch of playoff qualifications and to have the success that they've been able to have over the years, some of these years in particular, more so than others, it just really speaks a lot to the culture that Coach Anise has been able to build and maintain here at Ferris State. Even as the names and faces of the players on the field, of course, are going to change and a few changes in the coaching staff over the years. But the commitment to success and the commitment to excellence remains the same for Ferris State.
Of course, we talked about Sparky McEwen last week. Of course, the Bulldogs defeated Saginaw Valley under Ryan Brady, and those were 2 guys that were here, a part of that original staff that really helped get it going here in terms of making the playoff field. Yeah,
I mean, I had a chance to talk to Coach Brady on the field after the game, and obviously a tough loss for his team, his program. But you certainly have to respect what Coach Brady's been able to do at Saginaw Valley in terms of, elevating that program back. It's a program that over the years had been, one of the top teams in the GLIAC and kind of took a little bit of a step backwards, and they've certainly bounced back more so under Coach Brady, and then they hope that they're on a good trajectory. And I think Coach Sparky McEwen's done, something very similar at Davenport in terms of getting Davenport into the playoffs for the first time and to have them up near the top of the GLIAC and have them as a respected program in the backyard, because in their backyard is Ferris State and Grand Valley. So they've got 2 of the best programs in the nation in college football at the Division II level, certainly, right there in their backyard, yet they continue to compete.
Of course, we'll have plenty more on both the game over Saginaw Valley State and, of course, this week's matchup with the Davenport Panthers as Ferris State gets ready to close out the regular season. Coming up on Saturday, a noon start at the Farmers Insurance Athletic Complex in Caledonia. We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch after this break here on the Bulldog Sports Network. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Big thanks as well to Fox Motors of Cadillac and Reed City. Ferris State coming off a memorable 51-45 double overtime win over Saginaw Valley State in a big game to keep the Bulldogs unbeaten, 10-0 on the year and 6-0 in the GLIAC heading into the regular season finale.
I tell you what, it was a little uncomfortable when it was 24-7 and Saginaw Valley was up, and it just seemed like a lot of things were working in Saginaw Valley's favor. And, I think the one thing that the Bulldogs really felt good about, Rob, during that stretch was the defense was playing really well. And, defense were in some very difficult situations, but they kept playing well. And then once the offense started to kind of settle back in, I think that's when the Bulldogs were on a much better track as they got into that second half and then into the first overtime and then into the second overtime. The pieces started to come together. And obviously not the best Bulldog performance we've seen this year, but certainly in terms of the grit and the fight that we saw, I think it was really a signature win in that regard.
Of course, Ferris State, a couple big plays in that game in the comeback, a couple big touchdown throws from Chase Carter to Cam Underwood. We had a chance following the game to catch up with Cam Underwood on the field to talk more about the Ferris State victory.
All right, we're down here on the field after a wild one here for the Bulldogs, 51-45 win down here with Cam Underwood. Some big grabs from you, Cam. First of all, just tell me, sum up, what was this game like?
Man, it was a competitive game. We already knew that it was going to be a tough game coming out because this is a tough opponent, but we knew we were going to win as long as we stayed together and played as a team.
And tell me, what was the message for you guys at halftime? We were down, and that's not something that we're familiar with. And they were getting the ball to begin the third quarter, but you guys had a huge third quarter. What was the message at halftime, and how did you guys turn around the third quarter?
The message just was to lock in and smack them in the mouth. We got smacked in the mouth the first half. We played a lot of bad football, but we just had to go into halftime, talk as a team, figure out what we need to do so we could capitalize.
And what does it say about the character of this team? Because you guys faced a lot of adversity, and you guys could have folded at 24-7, but you guys were able to fight back. What does it say about this team? I could see the emotion after the game that you guys were feeling it.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're a brotherhood, and we stick together, and we do everything together. So if we lose, we lose, but we don't lose, so we're just going to keep, we're going to keep balling out.
So what was going through your mind as it was 24-7, and you guys started to you got that one touchdown, then the next one. Tell me what was going through your mind. What was the confidence like with the team?
We just need to keep going. We need to keep scoring. We need to shut them out so we could get this game over with, man. And that was pretty much it.
What did you say about Chase Carter? He came in and really filled the role, did well. And you guys had that free play, and you were able to get a touchdown off of that. And that was a good read on his part.
I mean, yeah, Chase is just a phenomenal athlete. Fastest dude I've ever met. He's a baller, and we got great chemistry, great connection between all of us, including the receivers. So that's just a no-brainer that he was going to connect on one.
And then lastly, how does it feel to be a GLIAC champion for the second consecutive year?
It feels amazing. I could just go into the locker room and celebrate with my team.
And that was Ferris State University senior receiver Cam Underwood talking more about the Ferris State win as the Bulldogs defeated Saginaw Valley State on Saturday over in University Center. A great touchdown catch by Cam Underwood on that free play for the Bulldogs into the end zone, and then caught the slant pass as well later on in the game that helped really solidify that game going to overtime for the Bulldogs.
Well, a lot of people were on me about I was kept called out free play while you were trying to be professional and call it. And, but the big thing was not so much that you and I saw it, but that Chase Carter saw it and that he reacted and the offensive line reacted, and then a great catch in the end zone by Cam and that was a pivotal play. Let's be honest. You mentioned, Cam had another big catch later at the opposite end of the stadium that was a huge play as well. And so Cam was certainly a big part of that Bulldog effort.
Of course, another big part of that Bulldog effort, another guy that had a key play in the ballgame was Justin Payout, senior defensive back who intercepted a Mason McKenzie pass when the Bulldogs were on the comeback trail and took it back to the house on the pick six. We had a chance after the game to catch up with JP on the field to talk about the Bulldog win.
All right, back down on the field here with Justin Payout. You were a part of that big defensive effort, and obviously we had a problem with turnovers, but how were you guys able to hang in there and stay tough as a defense?
Yeah, man. So, all we do is preach about being gritty, and I feel like that's what we came out here and showcased today. Offense put us in a couple bad spots, but even though there was bad spots, we came out here, we still held them to 0 on some jobs, and some jobs we held them to 3. So that was a big big win for us.
And tell me a little bit about your pick six and what did you see and how did it play out?
So we've been running that play all week in practice, kind of dreamed about it, and they came and they ran that sail route, and I told my coach if they throw it, I was taking it to the house, and that's what I did.
And what do you love about this defense? Because you guys really hung tough, and they kept scoring, but eventually you guys were able to get the stop, and you guys held them. You stopped the field goal, and then that set the stage for you guys in overtime.
I just love how we just rally together, and we just one big family, man. No matter what happens, we go to the next play, and we just keep going, man, no matter what.
And then how does it feel to be a GLIAC champion for the second consecutive year?
Feels amazing, man. I wouldn't want to be nowhere else right now, man. It feels amazing.
And then lastly, tell me about what was the emotion like on this field after we got that score from Tariq, and Tariq was able to get in the end zone and you guys were able to finally win. It just seemed like it was an explosion of emotion.
Yeah, man. It just feels like everything we worked hard for over the summer, spring, and everything we just came out here and just let it all out. And that play right there just kind of sums it all up.
And that was Ferris State University senior defensive back Justin Payout, the pick six for Ferris State to give the Bulldogs the lead in the second half of that game. Went from 24-7 to 28-24 in a hurry in favor of the Bulldogs in that third quarter of play.
I mean, it was a blur how fast that happened because, I mean, you know, and rightfully so. I mean, that stadium was rocking. You know, Saginaw Valley State fans, we were on, you know, their side of the stadium, obviously, with the press box, and that place was rocking. I mean, it was fired up, and rightfully so, and then it just seemed like in a heartbeat, it was 28-24, and certainly Jay Pay's pick, and he talked a little bit about how they had seen something in film, and they were kind of ready for what that play was, and he was able to step right in front like he was in their huddle, and he knew what was coming, and he had the great interception, and then just a great job. He had just a Secret Service-like convoy to the end zone.
Of course, you had a chance after the game. You were down on the field. Had to grab Coach Anise. He kind of had to let the Bulldogs celebrate that GLIAC championship a little bit, but we had a chance to talk with Coach Anise to talk more about the Ferris State win on the road over the Cardinals.
All right, down here on the field with Tony Anise, head coach of the Bulldogs, 51-45 win in overtime. How's the heart doing?
You know, I don't even know what to say about it. I just every time since Coach Brady's been here virtually, it's been this kind of game. Fortunately, we've won them all, but it's like, you know, it feels like a toss-up game. And my heart, I think, is okay. I think I'm in really good shape for an old guy, but what a game. You know, it's at the end of it, you know, I'm going to go back home and just be happy that we're the GLIAC champs, and that can't be taken away from us. So one goal achieved.
And, obviously the turnovers were painful to go through. But on a positive side, what about your team in the third quarter? You came out, you had actually a turnover early in the third quarter too, but then you guys were able to kind of come back. I mean, I had to say a lot about the heart of this team.
Yeah, you know, I said to them after the game, you know, a lot of teams, really, you know, top-level teams in the country, you know, Alabama or LSU or Ole Miss, I should say them, or Ohio State, you know, they have a bad game and they sometimes lose. And Georgia's another one. And so we didn't play well, but we won. And so it goes a lot saying that our guys are pretty resilient, determined, and they don't flinch under a lot of adversity. You know, we were 2 weeks ago, we were the number one team in the nation in turnover margin. And last week we slipped to 2, and now that, right? Wyatt had thrown one interception all year, and that was the Hail Mary last week. And he'd never fumbled the ball other than on a mesh, you know, which you know, you fumble on meshes sometimes, but he's never fumbled the ball carrying the ball. And then this happened. So, but proud of the guys. You know, I'll get Wyatt back going. He's a super player. In the meantime, Chase did unbelievable things for us, and we just hung in there and just obviously walk out of here with a W. So very proud of that.
And then I know you just talked about it a little bit, and since you took my question about Chase Carter away, winning a second consecutive GLIAC championship, and I know that everybody talks about national championships, but I know how much that GLIAC championship means to you, because obviously if you win that puts you on the stage to be able to have an opportunity to play for a national championship.
Yeah, I think that's probably 5 and 7 years. So it's really unbelievable accomplishment for our guys. And we were at risk if we lose this one of potentially not being the team that is viewed as the champion because of just tiebreakers and stuff like that. But so that's a huge relief. It's an amazing accomplishment for our guys, and I'm just so happy that we were able to overcome the stuff that we had happen and get out of here with a W.
And that was Ferris State University football head coach Tony Anise talking about the win on the road at Saginaw Valley State. The Bulldogs improved to 11-2 under his watch against the Cardinals, but they've all been tough wins to get over Saginaw Valley.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, on the national scene a little bit more were kind of like, man, Ferris had a really tough game against Saginaw Valley, and you, I, and a lot of other people were like, when haven't we had a tough game against them over the years? I mean, if you think of all 3 national championship seasons, that was one of, if not our toughest game that we played in all 3 of those seasons. And so we just come to expect that it's going to be a tough game. Coach Brady, I think, had his team really, really prepared, and they played a really strong ball game. And, it's unfortunate for them that somebody had to lose. And, I mean, from our perspective, we're glad it wasn't us. But they certainly played really, really well. And so I expected a tough game. I think you expected a tough game. And I know our coaches and players expected a tough game.
Got to give a shout out to Saginaw Valley State. Had an outstanding environment for that game. We were on the home side, so maybe we felt it a little bit more, but we had a huge Bulldog following across the field, and just a great crowd there for what was a great Division II game.
That was tremendous. And I think I mentioned this to you. I don't know if I've ever seen that many Ferris State fans at Saginaw Valley, but just a great turnout of Ferris State fans. And of course, we have a lot of people that are on our team, a lot of players that are kind of from that Tri-Cities area, and then getting into the Flint area. A lot of players from that area that their fans and their family, I'm sure, showed up and showed out, and they got a chance to see just a thriller that came right down to the end in double overtime.
Of course, Ferris State gets the win as the Bulldogs get ready for the final game of the regular season this Saturday at Davenport. We'll take a quick break, back to talk more about the GLIAC and the Division II football picture on the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Thanks again to Fox Motors of Cadillac and Reed City as the Bulldogs get ready for the final week here of the regular season, and part of the final week of GLIAC regular season play. We get a chance to go back and kind of review last week's games, talk about this week's action here in the conference. Of course, Ferris State has already secured that GLIAC championship right now with a 2-game lead with 1 game to go here in the conference race.
Yep. So we got that information, and we'll go through the games. But once that Grand Valley Michigan Tech game ended, combined with Ferris State's win over Saginaw Valley, that pretty much sealed the outright GLIAC championship for Ferris State. So just a great day to be a Bulldog.
Of course, had some great games in the GLIAC last week. The one game that wasn't was somewhat of a surprising score. Roosevelt kind of put it on Wayne State in Arlington Heights. Final score 48-14 as Roosevelt gets its 2nd win of the season, first conference win, and keeps Wayne State winless here on the year heading into the final week.
Yeah, just an eye-popping explosion there for Roosevelt, which is, has had its struggles over the course of this season, and as a still, you can still consider them a somewhat new program to the GLIAC, and yet, just a dominant win for them at home, and I'm sure that was a big win for them and their fans.
Of course, other games going on around the conference this past week. We kind of talked about this one earlier, but Northern Michigan had coaching change last week with Shane Richardson resigning as the head coach. Another coach put on an administrative leave, but they come out and they find a way to get it done on the road. We talked about Northern Michigan being a team that's got better and better, and they beat Davenport 47-45 in 4 overtimes.
Yeah, I had some people that were talking to me. One person was talking to me about how many points that they scored against us, and I just first off, we won the game. So and at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. But also is that this Northern Michigan team has really improved, and I think we saw it in the game in Big Rapids that they're playing better football, and then to go through the adversity that they went through, with your head coach and one of your assistant coaches, and then to find a way to go on the road. I don't know, maybe it might have been good for them to go on the road, but they were able to go there and just get a gritty win over Davenport. I watched a little bit of that game on the Flow Sports replay, and man, I tell you what, it was just a gritty and gutty win for Northern Michigan.
Of course, the final game of the weekend, along with the Ferris State Saginaw Valley State game that we talked about, was Grand Valley State at home in Allendale, beating Michigan Tech 18-15. Big win for the Lakers as they kind of spoil Michigan Tech's perhaps playoff hopes going into this final week. We'll wait and see, but obviously Grand Valley State a big win, and Michigan Tech a game that they probably needed.
Yeah, you have to think that Michigan Tech needed that game because right now the GLIAC is looking like a one-bid league, and I think there was an outside chance that if Michigan Tech had been able to get that win over Grand Valley, it certainly would help their strength of schedule. It would have been a signature win for them and may have been able to sneak them into that 7th or 8th spot. But now it looks pretty bleak for their opportunities in terms of making the playoffs.
Of course, as we move into this week's schedule, Michigan Tech not going to get any easier for the Huskies. They do go back home to Houghton, but they've got Saginaw Valley State coming up to Michigan Tech, and we'll see how those two teams, probably the final game of the season for both of those squads, and we'll see who kind of wants it the most here. Two very capable teams going to meet up in that regular season finale.
And I would say two pretty evenly matched teams, and we were looking at some of the snow totals there, and it's wild. In some places you got 18 inches, and some places more than that. And it's that time of the year in Houghton, and so could be a tough trip for Saginaw Valley. On the other hand, Saginaw Valley does run the ball well. So it should be a good matchup between those two teams.
Of course, that'll be a noon start in Houghton. It'll be a noon start in Caledonia as well, with Ferris State, number 1 in the country, traveling to Davenport. And then the other two games here on the GLIAC slate this weekend, we'll start with Grand Valley State playing host to Roosevelt, Battle of the Lakers here in the conference. That one at Lubber Stadium in Allendale, 1 o'clock. Grand Valley State looking for another win to kind of close out the year.
Well, we know the Lakers are going to win, and unfortunately, I don't think Roosevelt's going to get 48 points against Grand Valley, so Grand Valley's certainly going to be a heavy favorite in that game.
Of course, our final game, big game for both teams, is Northern Michigan will play host to Wayne State inside the Superior Dome in Marquette. The Wildcats, after a big win this past week over Davenport, got to go back home in front of the home fans who have to be a little more excited with the progress. They got a couple wins under their belts already and taking on a Wayne State team that's playing for their final opportunity to get a win here in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought that their best chance was going to be to get one against Roosevelt, and then they kind of took it on the chin, 48-14, outside of Chicago. And so now you come back and you get Northern Michigan, which is playing with a lot of confidence right now. And you saw the celebration that they had after beating Davenport, and rightfully so. In 4 overtimes, they're able to get that win. So tall tree to climb for Wayne State to try to get a win this season and to resist going winless this season.
Of course, Wayne State, not that I'm a coach or anything, but I think the goal coming in is you got to stop the run, as Northern Michigan certainly has been piling up some rushing yards no matter who the opponent is.
Yeah, they're certainly a very run-based team, although, I mean, they came out throwing a little bit against us, so they threw us a little bit of a curveball there, but they're certainly very much run-based. You got to win the line of scrimmage against Northern Michigan, got to be very disciplined. You make a mistake and a 2 or 3 yard run can turn into a 40 or 50 yard run. So should be an interesting game between those two teams.
Let's go back to the Division II football scoreboard. Top 25 action presented by D2Football.com, and had a busy slate of games. Some games with some big playoff implications this past week, along with this week coming up. We'll start with the top 25 results from this past week, though. It was Bentley over number 25 Assumption by a score of 20-17. I think Bentley gets an automatic bid into the playoffs with that win. Findlay, a huge win for the Oilers. Number 14 in the country defeats number 15 Ashland 14-3, and a battle between two of the top teams in the Great Midwest Athletic Conference.
Yeah, really a strong defensive performance by the Oilers, and probably at home for Ashland, a very disappointing offensive performance for the Eagles, and so they'll be waiting to see, but certainly Findlay doing what they needed to do to seal that conference championship.
Johnson C. Smith, number 17 in the nation, defeats Livingston 26-21. It was Minnesota Duluth, now number 10 as of last week, 42-28 winner over Bemidji State. Number 18, Newberry, topped Carson Newman 28-21. It was Virginia Union, number 13 in the country, beating Virginia State 14-3, and then kind of an upset in the Northern Sun, where number 19 Minnesota State dominates number 8 Augustana 45-21.
Yeah, I don't think anybody necessarily didn't think that Minnesota State could win that game against Augustana, but certainly to win it in that kind of dominant fashion, probably a major eye-opener for a lot of people.
Of course, I kind of heard the GLIAC Weekly Show on D2Football.com as well. They were talking about that game. Augustana wakes up on Saturday morning unbeaten, and now after that loss, right now maybe on the outside, right in that number 8 spot, still in the field, but a lot will depend on this week's results.
Yeah, so they're in a pretty precarious position right now, and obviously, losing 45-21, they certainly didn't earn any style points. It's not like they lost 45-44 or 22-21. So we'll see for them, but it's going to be first of all, they got to go out and win next week, and then it's going to be a long, probably 36 hours for them or so to wait it out.
Number 3, Kutztown stays unbeaten, but it was a battle over a 2-8 Bloomsburg team. They win it 35-27 on the road. Number 5, Pittsburgh State defeats Central Missouri 48-35 in the MIAA. In the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, another game that went to overtime. It was number 7, Colorado State Pueblo, edging out Colorado Mines 41-34.
Yeah, big win there for the Thunderwolves to get that win over Mines, and it's a good rivalry game, and for Pueblo, trying to stay up near the top of what is a very, very competitive Super Region 4. That was a must-have win.
Albany State, number 20 in the nation, defeated Fort Valley 48-3. It was number 12 Indianapolis over Southwest Baptist in the Great Lakes Valley Conference by a score of 66-21. Number 23 Wingate defeated Tusculum 56-10. It was Northwest Missouri State continuing their impressive play. The number 11 ranked Bearcats defeat Missouri Western in a rivalry game 38-7.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know if there are many more dangerous looking teams coming into potentially coming into the NCAA playoffs. Northwest Missouri has a huge game coming up this weekend, and I know we'll talk about that a little bit, but if they get into the playoffs, as a playoff team, they're a scary-looking team. I think they already clinched a share of that championship, so maybe some things to sort out there.
Of course, another big game out in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference also went to overtime. It was number 22 Chadron State out of Nebraska edging Western Colorado, number 9 in the nation, 27-24. Walk-off field goal, I think, in overtime from nearly 50 yards gives Chadron State the win, and that sets up another big matchup for them this week that we'll talk about as they try to get into the playoff picture.
Tell you what, that's a long field goal, and if the weather was anything like what it was for us outside today, that football had to be awful hard and find a way to get through the uprights. So congratulations to Chadron State. That's a great win, an upset win over Western Colorado.
Harding, number 2 in the country, no challenge for them as they defeated Southern Nazarene 52-14. It was Valdosta State upsetting number 24 Delta State 27-23. Big win for the Blazers, who have got better as the year has went on. Number 21 Western Oregon, they've been playing well. They defeated Angelo State in the Lone Star Conference 31-7. Also in the Lone Star Conference, number 16 Texas Permian Basin rebounds as they beat Eastern New Mexico 47-34. And the final game also in the Lone Star among the top 25 teams. Number 6 Central Washington all over Sul Ross 73-7 the final in that one.
Yeah, that's a tough one for Sul Ross. They certainly paid the price in that one. But the interesting one, Valdosta was an interesting one that you mentioned there, because Valdosta right now, they're a team that they can. Their record doesn't indicate it, but they can beat almost anybody on a good day, and so they're certainly a dangerous team to be looking at.
Of course, another busy week coming up here in Division II football as we take a look at this week's matchups going on around the country. Bentley, we mentioned them, going to be a playoff team hosting American International. Slippery Rock, a team that right now is still in the playoff picture. Of course, reached the semifinals a year ago before falling to Ferris State. They will visit Bloomsburg. Going to be a heavy favorite in that one. They may need some help out of the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference as well.
Yeah, I think Rock they certainly have to win that game. It's a must-win for them, and probably going to need a little bit of help around them to see if they can get back into the playoffs after a great run for them that fell short against the eventual national champions.
Another team out in Super Region 1 that's in the playoff picture, Frostburg State will visit Fairmont State. Findlay will play host to Tiffin. Huge game in the great Midwest Athletic Conference. Of course, Findlay right now right behind the Bulldogs. We saw Tiffin earlier in the year. That's a capable team. We'll see if they can knock off Findlay, which is trying to secure the outright GMAC championship.
Yeah, this is a really dangerous game for Findlay, and I don't think I need to necessarily remind them of that. Tiffin's certainly a very, very capable team, very balanced team offensively, we saw from Tiffin. And if they're able to put some things together offensively, they could make Findlay uncomfortable. But obviously Findlay at home, and they certainly know what's at stake with this game.
The Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference will have a championship game. It'll be Indiana of Pennsylvania going on the road to Kutztown, which right now is number 3 in the nation, and trying to secure that conference title. Both of those teams also the playoff picture out in Super Region 1. Going around the nation, a big game for Northwood as well in the GMAC, as the Timberwolves right now sitting right on the bubble in terms of the Division II playoffs will visit Walsh. A win maybe, and Northwood has a chance to get into the playoffs.
But again, for Northwood, certainly favored in that game, but on the road at Walsh. Walsh is a dangerous team to play, and they're like a lot of teams, they play well at home. So Northwood has to come in and play a complete game to keep themselves in the picture.
West Alabama will play host to Northeastern State out of Oklahoma. It'll be Assumption going on the road to Westchester. Other games of note this week, Ashland, of course, still in the top 4 in Super Region 3. They will play host to Lake Erie, going to be a heavy favorite in that one against the Storm in the regular season finale. It'll be Tusculum on the road at Carson Newman. Sioux Falls will be at Concordia St. Paul out in the Northern Sun. It'll be East Stroudsburg playing host to Clarion. Ohio Dominican will visit Hillsdale in the GMAC. It's Lenore Ryan playing host to Catawba. Also going around the nation, Minnesota State will try to solidify its playoff position as they play host to a very good Minnesota State Moorhead team, which is certainly capable of maybe making some noise in that contest.
Yeah, they're a dangerous team with some offensive firepower. So Maverick's going to have to be ready to play in that game, but certainly you would favor Minnesota State, Mankato in that contest against Moorhead.
Nebraska Kearney will play host to Central Missouri in the MIAA. It'll be North Carolina Pembroke going on the road to North Greenville, a couple of potential playoff teams in that matchup. Shippensburg will play host to California of Pennsylvania. Also this coming week in the country, it'll be Southwest Minnesota State at Winona State. Bemidji State will play host to Mary. Fort Hays State and Emporia State in the MIAA will do battle in Emporia, Kansas. Fort Lewis will entertain Colorado Mines, a huge game in the Great Lakes Valley Conference for perhaps a share of the GLVC title. It'll be Indianapolis hosting Upper Iowa. Both of those teams right now in the top 7 in the region.
Yeah, I think Indianapolis in a pretty solid position right now. However, Upper Iowa nipping at their heels a little bit, so that's going to be one that we'll definitely keep our eyes on with some serious playoff implications.
Minnesota Duluth, another team out of the Northern Sun that needs a win. They will go on the road to Minot State, going to be the favorite in that one. It'll be Ouachita Baptist hosting Henderson State, the Battle of the Ravine, taking part down in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, and that's always an entertaining one. I think this will be the 98th or 99th edition of that matchup.
I tell you what, there aren't very many games around the country that don't involve the GLIAC that I enjoy watching, but us having been at Ouachita, and you can look from the Ouachita press box and you can see Henderson State Stadium. That just tells you a lot about that rivalry. So always a fun rivalry regardless of the records.
It'll be Southwest Baptist at Quincy. Other games, it'll be Augustana. We mentioned them. They've got a big matchup on the road against a Wayne State team out of Nebraska that's playing well. So not the Wayne State out of Michigan, but the Wayne State out of Nebraska that has came on as of late, and Augustana trying to keep its playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, that's a dangerous game to go into for Augustana. They definitely have to be ready to play. Wayne State, Nebraska is a team that they've got some signature wins this season, and Augustana hopes not to be one of them.
Of course, you mentioned the Battle of the Ravine, one of the biggest matchups around the country. Another one that's a traditional rivalry matchup. Pittsburgh State and Northwest Missouri State going to battle in Kansas City, and that one will have some playoff implications. Both of those teams figure to be in the playoff picture out in Super Region 4.
Yeah, I think coming into the season, I don't think people had this game necessarily pegged to be as important as it's going to be right now. But Northwest Missouri, the way they're playing right now, one of the hottest teams in the country. But so is Pittsburgh State. Pittsburgh State, after a little bit of a shaky start with some of the brutal early schedule, this sets up to be a titanic battle that'll be played in Kansas City. Again, one of the great rivalries in the country.
It'll be Harding trying to finish off an unbeaten regular season. They will go on the road to Arkansas Tech. Shadron State at Colorado State Pueblo, a game with some major implications out in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. And, of course, in Super Region 4, Central Oklahoma will be at Missouri Western. Also this week, Virginia Union will play host to Johnson C. Smith, a couple potential playoff teams. Valdosta State will go on the road to West Florida. I think Valdosta State's still right in the mix. Maybe could claim a share of the conference championship with a win in that matchup.
Well, that's a dangerous game for West Florida, and West Florida's been playing really, really well, been basically a top 5 team for most of the season. But Valdosta State, we said it a little bit ago, they can beat you on a good day, and so West Florida going to have to be ready to play.
Western Colorado will play host to Colorado Mesa. It's Wingate hosting Mars Hill. Benedict will go on the road to Albany State. Truman State at McKendree, and a big matchup out in the Lone Star involving the two westernmost teams in the Lone Star Conference, Central Washington and Western Oregon, I think, for the Lone Star Conference Championship.
I got to be honest, when I hear Central Washington and Western Oklahoma, or Oregon, I don't necessarily think of Lone Star, but hey, it is what it is, and the two Western teams there, but Central Washington's been good all year, and Western Oregon has really come on late in the season, and they're playing some really good football. That's going to be a huge matchup.
West Texas A&M will play host to Angelo State, and Texas Permian Basin hosting Sul Ross, as both Angelo and Permian Basin try to keep whatever playoff hopes they have alive still out there. That's a look at the Division II football playoff picture. We'll be back with more right here on the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show after this timeout on the Bulldog Sports Network. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show, presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you as the Bulldogs get ready to face the Davenport Panthers this Saturday in the Calder City Classic down at the Farmers Insurance Complex in Caledonia. Ferris State and Davenport will kick off at noon. An early start here for the Bulldogs as they take on Davenport, two schools that have kind of became West Michigan rivalries, thus the Calder City Classic.
Yeah, it is, and it's been a lot of fun, especially with Coach McEwen going there and breathing some new life into that Davenport program and getting that Davenport program up to the point where they've been able to get into the NCAA playoffs, and they've been one of the top teams in the GLIAC. And so when you think of the competition that they battle, that we battle, the Grand Valley battles, all right here within about 50 or so miles of each other. Of course, Grand Valley and Davenport, the crosstown rivalry. It says a lot about, their program and where they are. And so it's going to be a classic. The Calder City Classic is going to be another classic, and should be another great battle. Of
course, along with Coach McEwen, we mentioned A.J. McEwen, a former Bulldog on that staff, the defensive coordinator. There have been some other former Tony Anise assistants that have been around that Davenport program. It was started, I think, by Lou Esposito, who was a Ferris State assistant for a year or two before he moved on, and now currently at the University of Michigan. Another guy that was at Davenport for a while, Steve Kasula, now the offensive coordinator at Michigan, former Bulldog as well. So just a lot of close connections over the years between Ferris State and Davenport since that program began.
Yeah, it really has been, and just some familiar names that are still doing some great things, maybe at different spots, some, still obviously at Davenport. And so it really is just kind of added a little bit extra to this rivalry, and it's just been a lot of fun. I think it's fun to have these three really strong programs right here in West Michigan, and Grand Valley and Davenport is a good rivalry. Obviously, Ferris State and Grand Valley is a big rivalry, and so it's just a lot of fun when these teams get together.
Of course, as we get ready for this game on Saturday, we had a chance actually earlier today to be out at practice. It was a cool, windy day, but had a chance to catch up with some of the Bulldogs to talk more about this matchup with Davenport. And I don't think I even realized it at the time, but the two guys we picked today are both from Caledonia. One of them, Nolan Ziegler, of course, didn't play at Caledonia, played at Grand Rapids Catholic Central. Andrew DeVries as well, right from Caledonia, played at Caledonia High School. So nice to be able to catch up with both of those guys here to talk about the matchup this weekend.
Yeah, good job on your part to identify two West Michigan kids that just so happen to be from Caledonia, but two really good young guys, and both with different perspectives, and it was really interesting to be out there at practice and to eavesdrop a little bit from my perspective on your interviews.
Of course, we'll start with Andrew DeVries, who has played a key role on that offensive line for Ferris State. Actually came in, got some more snaps with some injuries last weekend against Saginaw Valley State, and has really been an impact player up front for the Bulldogs, part of the Nasty Boys, to talk more about Ferris State and the matchup against Davenport. Here with Andrew DeVries following practice today. First of all, what's it like just being out here at this time of the year when the weather gets colder and still having a chance to play with these guys?
I mean, it's amazing. We had a chance to be nasty every single day of the week. We get to be together one more week, and I mean, I'm just excited to get out there and play.
How exciting was it in the second half of that game against Saginaw Valley for you guys to come back and have an opportunity and then pull out that win on the road?
Oh, man, that was electric. I mean, all 5 of us came out. We were nasty. We tried to get everything done that we could. We all focused on our jobs and just took it one play at a time to make that happen.
For you, what's it been like being one of those guys that's been getting a lot of quality playing time up front on the offensive line and kind of following in the footsteps of some of those other great offensive linemen?
It's awesome. I get to play for the best coaches in the country. I get to play for the best program in the country. I get to learn from the best O-line coaches, and I get to be nasty every day. Can't beat it.
For you going back this weekend to the Grand Rapids area, what's it going to be like playing in front of a lot of family and friends down in Davenport?
I'm super excited. I'm from Caledonia, Michigan. My girlfriend actually dances for Davenport, so I'm excited to kind of go against her for her senior night. It should be fun.
How important is it to come out really and establish the line of scrimmage here early in this game on Saturday and hopefully have a chance to finish the regular season unbeaten?
It's very important. We're going to come out. We're going to be nasty to these guys. We're not going to let them own it. It's going to be our line of scrimmage.
And that was Ferris State University center and offensive lineman Andrew DeVries talking about the Bulldog win over Saginaw Valley. Of course, this week's matchup against Davenport as he gets to head back to his hometown. And I'm sure we'll play in front of some more family and friends here this Saturday.
Yeah, he's a part of that Nasty Boys group, and it was really great to hear from him. And he obviously conducted himself very well in that interview, and frankly, fortunately for us, he conducted himself even better on the field, particularly last week when he was really called to duty against Saginaw Valley State in that game down the stretch. You mentioned some injury issues that the Bulldogs had along the offensive line, and they felt really good going to Andrew DeVries, and he really delivered.
Of course, another guy that's delivered here this year for Ferris State was named the Bulldog Special Teams Player of the Week. Nolan Ziegler, of course, started his college career at the University of Notre Dame and kind of came back to West Michigan here, getting another opportunity with the Bulldogs and making the most of it here. He's really came on and been valuable on special teams. He's been effective as a pass rusher as well here for Ferris State on the defensive side.
Yeah, just a tremendously talented athlete and a really strong knowledge of the game of football, and he plays it hard. He plays it very smart, and it's just really been great to see him find a comfort zone at this university in this football program, and just a tremendously talented player, and you just certainly have to be happy for his success.
We had a chance to catch up with Nolan following practice today to talk more about what's ahead here for the Bulldogs. Here following practice today with Nolan Ziegler. Nolan, first of all, what's it feel like helping the Bulldogs win a GLIAC championship this past week?
It felt great, something to be a part of, something just you got to work all together and work with your brothers to get. It felt great.
For you guys, how special was that second half, down 24-7, but you guys really stuck together and had a chance to come back and get the victory?
I just think it shows our grit and fight and what we can do, leaning on offense and defense, special teams, and just continuing to grind it away and get the win.
For you, what's it been like being part of that defense, kind of a brotherhood back there, and you guys have been playing some great football here over the course of the year?
It's been great. I mean, those are your guys, and so just going to war with them every day feels great.
For you this week, get a chance to play at Davenport, kind of back in your hometown area. What's it going to be like just playing down in the Grand Rapids area against the Panthers?
It'll be fun. You got guys you played with growing up, and it should be a good game to end off the regular season, and it'll be a good one.
Obviously, you guys have some big goals still ahead of you. How important is it to get this win and close out the regular season unbeaten?
Super important. I just think it goes all the year-long preparation, and yeah, it'll be a big one this week just to close off, get a good win, and yeah, that's the plan.
And that was Ferris State University linebacker Nolan Ziegler as the Bulldogs get ready to face Davenport coming up on Saturday in the Calder City Classic. Ferris State going on the road to finish out the regular season, but already a GLIAC championship under their belts. And I know this team is already hard right back at work here this week and kind of put that Saginaw Valley game behind them and looking forward here to Davenport and then to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the work that they're putting in, and obviously we were out at football practice today, and I came from my office to the Bentley studio here, and walked past the offensive line group, and they were getting ready to go in there with Coach Burton and to study some more film, and so just a lot of work that's being done, not only on the field but downstairs in the weight room and the Center for Athletics Performance, and of course studying film and just doing all the things that it takes to be successful.
Of course, one of the guys that puts in all the time to be successful here as a head coach, Coach Tony Annese. We had a chance to catch up with him following practice here this afternoon. Here with head coach Tony Annese after practice today. And Coach, maybe going back to last Saturday, what was it like in that second half, just on the sidelines, seeing the emotion out of your guys come back?
Yeah, when it went to 24-7, there was a little bit of a sinking feeling, I'm sure. But we scored right away, and then got the ball back, scored again, and then Jay Pay had the pick, and all of a sudden you're looking at the scoreboard, and you're like, oh my gosh, we're ahead now. So it's the nature of what championship teams do, and I'm proud of these guys to do what they do, having the mindset that we can always come back from a challenge, the belief that they're the type of team that can be a championship team. So, mindset and belief are so powerful, and just so proud of them that they're able to come back and win that game.
Of course, able to win the GLIAC championship here with still a week left in the regular season. How nice was it to get that goal kind of under your belts and win that conference title?
That's an unbelievable feeling. We already have that trophy, 2 games up with one game to go. That's pretty incredible for the guys to be able to achieve that. So proud of the staff, proud of everybody associated with Ferris State Football. And so it's a huge accomplishment. It's hard to do. So we're proud of that and looking forward to this last one.
Of course, this last one coming up on Saturday in the regular season at Davenport. What have you seen from them? Obviously, they've played some good football here in the last month.
Yeah, they're always tough. I always have to worry about what AJ's going to bring to the table, and with their defensive scheme, and so that's a challenge. They got a running back that's one of the best running backs in the conference, and a quarterback that we haven't really seen yet. So he's been there, but he's been hurt when we play them. So he's definitely a talented guy, and they got really good receivers. So they're a handful. And for us, our guys are. We know, like I've said earlier in the week, like we have 4 goals every season, and one's to win the GLIAC championship, one's to make the playoffs. So that's 2 achieved. The third one is to go undefeated during the regular season. So that's a big one. We got to win this one to achieve goal number 3, and then goal number 4 is to win the Natty, which we will reassess that once we get into next week.
Obviously, a lot of your guys from right here in West Michigan. What's it like for those guys to be able to play down in the Grand Rapids area here for the Calder City Classic?
You'll have to ask them. I think it's probably fun, but they've obviously we're here in Big Rapids. It's not that far away, so they've played probably in front of their loved ones like crazy probably this whole year, and then as far as whatever that classic thing, I don't even know what that is, but we'll play hard and hopefully win, and then evidently there is a trophy associated with it. We won the anchor bone and nobody's seen it since we won it, so we're still out on the hunt for that. I'm assuming that Bob and Tim Anderson have it at their house and causing trouble with that. But so yeah, the trophies aren't all that big a deal. The big deal is to go undefeated and seeding for the region and all of that stuff.
And that was our conversation with head coach Tony Annese following today's practice as the Bulldogs get ready to head to Caledonia on Saturday. Short road trip here for Ferris State as the Bulldogs look to finish out the regular season here. And I know important for this team, another goal that Coach Annese mentions they have each and every year is to finish the regular season undefeated, and they'll have a chance to do that if they can get a win coming up here on Saturday.
Yeah, you've won the GLIAC championship, and that's not going to be taken away from you. However, you do want to at this point finish the regular season undefeated, and to also get some momentum, keep some momentum going into the playoffs. And so the Bulldogs want to hit the playoffs feeling really good about themselves and with some good momentum to get ready to try to make one of those magical runs that a lot of teams are hoping right now. A lot of teams are hoping to get in position to be able to get into the NCAA playoffs, and then once that field is announced, after the games are completed this weekend, they're going to be a lot of teams that are going to be vying for a championship, and Ferris is going to be one of those, and they know the road, and they know it's a tough road.
Of course, we'll talk more about that playoff picture and the road ahead here for the Bulldogs as we wrap up our show with the final segment after this break here on the Bulldog Sports Network. And welcome back, everyone, to our final segment here on this week's Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show, presented by Two Hats Ranch. Thanks as well to Fox Motors of Cadillac and Reed City as the Bulldogs get ready to take on Davenport this Saturday here in the Calder City Classic. Kickoff set for 12 p.m. down in Caledonia. Of course, this the final game of the regular season for the Bulldogs. The NCAA Division II football playoff field will be announced on Sunday night, 6 p.m. Eastern time at NCAA.com. The Bulldogs, Sandy, already know they're in the field. Trying to hold on to that number one spot here in the Super Region 3 rankings.
Yeah, the Bulldogs know they're in, and right now it's just a matter of trying to solidify, your candidacy, if you will, for that top spot, to remain in that top spot, to officially finish in that top spot by the time everything is announced next Sunday, or this coming Sunday, excuse me. So I think right now the Bulldogs know that they got to try to get a win, and the competition behind them is stiff. You got Findlay right there behind them coming into this last week of the regular season. Findlay also undefeated, and so there's certainly some motivation for the Bulldogs to make sure they finish strong.
As we take a look at the regional picture right now, Ferris State number 1, followed by Findlay, right on the heels of the Bulldogs in the number 2 spot, still unbeaten out of the Great Midwest Athletic Conference as they get ready to take on Tiffin this Saturday. Behind those two teams, you got Indianapolis, a one-loss team at number 3. They've got a big game here in the Great Lakes Valley Conference coming up on Saturday. Ashland number 4, Minnesota Duluth number 5. Minnesota State, after a big win over Augustana, is number 6. Upper Iowa, the team that Indianapolis will face, is number 7. And then Augustana holds on to the number 8 spot. So you've got 3 Northern Sun teams in there in the top 8. You got a couple from the GLVC. You got a couple from the GMAC. Just Ferris State from the GLIAC is the 2 teams kind of outside, still in the top 10, but looking into the playoff field. Northwood at number 9 and Truman State at number 10.
So one of the things that I see right off the bat is UIndy and Upper Iowa playing. And Upper Iowa right now at number 7. Does a loss to UIndy knock them out? Maybe not, probably not. But, if Northwood is, let's say Northwood is particularly impressive and gets a win, and Upper Iowa loses maybe, significantly, does that change things? And then there's other factors that we've talked about in terms of, travel and, maybe trying to avoid, a conference matchup in the first round. But certainly the big thing is, trying to keep travel a little bit more, I guess you might say, fiscally responsible. So, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But, the biggest factor is, taking care of business and the resume that you bring to the table once those selections are officially made. Of
course, we'll wait and see. The NCAA had a memo out as well about the government shutdown. We'll see if that impacts it with some of the flights around the country. So there's some potential for some movement here. But obviously, right now, they're trying to solidify themselves in terms of making the playoff picture here across Super Region 3. We mentioned Ferris State, the only GLIAC team. I think I saw on the GLIAC Weekly show that Michigan Tech, Grand Valley, perhaps number 12 and 13, but probably a little bit bigger hill to climb with some of these teams still in the top 10.
Yeah, I think you'd have to say that really long shot for, a second GLIAC team. I think the second GLIAC team that maybe had the best chance was Michigan Tech, but they lost narrowly to Grand Valley, and that probably extinguished their hopes. So probably Ferris State going to be the lone GLIAC representative. And so they're going to be carrying the mantle, if you will, for the GLIAC.
Of course, if the Bulldogs can hold on to that number 1 spot here in Super Region 3, would be at home not only in the first round, but if you get a win in the first round, you're at home in the second round, potentially home in the third round for the regional title game as well with that number 1 seed. At least until you lose a game, you get to the semis, they will reseed everyone. So we'll have to wait and see. But you'd have to think the road to McKinney, Texas may run through Big Rapids if the Bulldogs can come away with a win and lock up that number 1 seed.
Yeah, if the Bulldogs can get to that national semifinal round, the Final Four, if you will, then they certainly like their chances to be able to host a game. But obviously, there's a lot of football between now and then. So, but certainly the Bulldogs, if they can hold on to that number 1 spot in this region, they put themselves in a really good position.
Of course, that happened a year ago. Ferris State able to play at home until that championship game down in McKinney, Texas. The one difference this year with the addition of 4 teams, there'll be 32 teams that make the Division II playoffs and no first-round byes this year. So that's been kind of a factor for the Bulldogs in getting some guys healthy in recent years. We'll see how that has an impact here on this year's playoff race.
Yeah, I think the Bulldogs are doing a really good job of trying to manage some of those injuries. And everybody, this time of the year is you're battling it to a greater or lesser degree. And, our sports medicine team is doing a really good job. And we saw some of those guys start to work their way back into the lineup this past weekend at Saginaw Valley. And so that's really exciting and encouraging to see some of those players begin to work their way back into the lineup here. But again, not really having a bye week there, which, can be very valuable, as you mentioned. But the Bulldogs don't have it. But what they have been able to do is, again, to work some guys back into the lineup. And when those guys that were in the lineup had been out, we showed that the depth of the Bulldogs is still pretty solid.
Of course, Ferris State taking on Davenport in the regular season finale this Saturday. We'll have all the coverage for you on Sunny 97.3, starting with the Johnson Automotive pregame show, 11 a.m. start for the pregame show on Saturday. Also online at ferrisstatebulldogs.com on the Bulldogs Sports Network. The game will be carried as well on Flow College and Flow Sports with the Davenport broadcast with kickoff set for noon down in Caledonia. The Bulldogs playing on the road here to wrap up the regular season, then hopefully back at home. We encourage fans to stay tuned to ferrisstatebulldogs.com, especially on Sunday night once the playoff field is announced. The Bulldogs will kind of know their opponent, know who's kind of next up on tap next week here in the Division II playoffs.
We might have to put the big Bentley TV up here and kind of camp out in here on Sunday night and watch it. But yeah, it's going to be really exciting to watch that and to see. It's kind of like an early Christmas. You get a chance to see not only that you made the field, we know we've made the field, but certainly it'll be an unveiling to see where we are and who we're going to play against, and then begin to make the necessary preparations.
Of course, we will be here on Sunday anyway. We've got women's basketball. We'll be on the air with women's basketball on Sunday as well. 1:30 p.m. pregame coverage with tip-off at 2 o'clock for the home opener for the Bulldogs, off to a 2-1 start against some strong competition out in Erie, Pennsylvania. They'll host Drury in regional action coming up on Sunday afternoon, again 2 p.m. Bulldog volleyball will be at home this weekend on Friday night at 6, Saturday at 3 as they wrap up the regular season, hoping to win a GLIAC championship as well. Bulldog hockey, after a big win over Augustana, they'll go on the road to Bowling Green, and Brody Kaiser will have all the action right here on the Bulldog Sports Network. Men's basketball going to open the season at Northwood on Friday and Saturday. So just a ton of action going on here in this crossover stretch here for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time of the year, and it's a busy time of the year, make no mistake about it, but it's fun to really see our basketball teams get going. Hockey's been going. Women's basketball off to a great start here at, with a huge win. They faced 2 top 5 teams nationally and won one and then lost one narrowly, but then came back and bounced back and had a good win. They go 2-1 out against some really tough competition in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I'm really excited to see the men's team get out there and get going. Obviously, Northwood now looks a lot tougher than even what we thought coming into the season. And so it's going to be good competition for the Bulldogs, and excited for them to get going. And then looking forward to hockey, seeing if they can build off of getting a split this past weekend. Really good win on Saturday against Augustana, and see if they can take that momentum into Bowling Green.
Of course, right now we're focused in on Davenport as well here on the football side, and West Michigan rivalry matchup to close out the regular season as the Bulldogs look to go unbeaten at 11-0 in regular season play. And you go back even some of those national championship years, the Bulldogs did not finish the regular season unbeaten, so they've put together some outstanding games again here over the course of the fall.
Yeah, they have, and it's you have a unique opportunity right now to finish the regular season undefeated, and certainly they place great value on that. But again, the big thing is just to keep your eyes on the prize, and right now for the Bulldogs, it's really just each game, one game at a time, and you want to take care of business this week against Davenport because really you don't have much of a choice because you don't necessarily know who you're going to play after that. You're going to play somebody, but you don't exactly know who.
Of course, Ferris State right now winners of 24 straight, going back to the season opener a year ago with that last loss coming to Pittsburgh State before that national championship run last season. The Bulldogs will be back in the playoff field this year as well. We'll find out on Sunday night more in terms of the next opponent for the Bulldogs. But first things first, trying to beat Davenport here in this regular season finale. Of course, we'll have all the coverage for you right here on Sunny 97.3. Big thanks to Steve Masters at the Sunny 97.3 studios. Huge thanks as well to the president of Ferris State University, Dr. Bill Pink, Athletic Director Steve Brocklebank, our entire communications and game day operations crew, along with our sponsors for helping make this broadcast possible, including Two Hats Ranch, along with Fox Motors of Cadillac and Reed City. A short drive to Caledonia this Saturday, but should be a lot of fun, and I'm expecting a lot of Bulldog fans there again down in the Grand Rapids area.
Well, the Bulldogs typically draw really well. We know when we go to Grand Valley, we draw well, and apparently we go to Saginaw Valley, we draw really well too, and just fortunate to have that support that we've had throughout the season and throughout these years. And so looking forward to a great Bulldog crowd in Caledonia.
Bulldogs will try to win the Calder City Classic as they take on the Panthers this Saturday in Caledonia at noon. This has been the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Thanks for tuning in right here on the Bulldog Sports Network, and have a great night.